Welcome to the Sponsored Rider Club podcast, your guide to motorsports sponsorship. Here's your host, Josh Weesey.
Hello and welcome to this episode of the Sponsored Rider Club podcast live experience. I am actually going to be referring to this one as round 2 because a couple days ago I fell victim to the social media, failure that we saw with Facebook and with Instagram. Didn't know it at the time, but I started doing this live show. Everything seemed to be working fine, and then everything afterwards crashed. So this was the day that Facebook and Instagram went kind of offline. But to kind of back things up a little bit, I had some other problems leading up to that. So Brandon Tedizzle Cox was going to come on, and he actually had a power outage at his house at the exact moment, just before we were going to start doing our live show. So that was problem 1. Problem 2 is that I couldn't post my video to Facebook because you couldn't post a lot of things to Facebook that day. Same with Instagram. So I'm coming back. I'm going to do this show again. I'm actually going to cover some of the same topics I covered in that live show, and then I'm going to add a few more. So, Rohan, welcome. Thanks for joining. So, this is basically like a revamp of the show I tried to do earlier in the week. But hey, Tedizzle is not coming on though, for sure. He will be coming on in the future, but not tonight. Tonight it's just going to be me. Alright. Before I get into the rest of the content, I have to cover a few other things. One is the partnership we have with AMSOIL. Really excited. It's still going strong. We've recently had Kevin Castor on the show, and he was phenomenal. So Kevin is, one of the racing program managers at AMSOIL. So that was really good to have him on, and he's helped me with some other connections. So right after that, Peter Calhoun came on of BF Goodrich, and AMSOIL and BF Goodrich have a strategic partnership. So that was cool to get both of their perspectives, week 1 and then week 2. The next thing is GSP-X TV. So they are partnered up with Jimmy Moore of Bold Racing, who is also a sponsor of this show. And they got some great axles that are out there. They did a lot of work at the Mint 400 this year. And they got a lot more work coming later on. So if you need to hook up with Jimmy Moore to get some GSP-X TV axles, let me know. Or if you know him already, contact him. You can get those axles. All right, the content here today is going to be about a couple of topics. One is vlogging, which I did cover in the last live show, but the content essentially got erased because of the crazy social media thing. And then I want to talk about improv. I think that my experience the other day with trying to do this live show and a lot of people's experience with trying to upload information to Facebook and Instagram not working, maybe we need to think about improv a little bit more. So I'm going to talk about that. And then I'm going to talk about actually a reinforcement of the last episode I did, episode 143, which was the social media apocalypse. I feel like it's just a good time to talk about that again because right after I did that, it seemed to happen where Facebook and Instagram stopped working roughly for a day. So we'll talk about that. But I do need to share the announcement that I made a big deal about on the Apocalypse Day. And of course that content's erased now. So I'm going to share it again. It's not quite as new as it used to be, but I am really excited to announce that we are now partnered up with Joe Sylvester and High Octane Coffee. So they are coming on as our newest partner for the podcast. You're going to be seeing a lot more of Joey as a result because the way we're doing this, we're actually going to get a lot more Joey on the show. So we're going to hear from him a lot more. I won't tell you all the ways why we're doing it or how we're doing it, but you're going to hear more about that. But in one of the main ways, you're going to start hearing something called the weekly marketing tune-up, which is fueled by High Octane Coffee. So you'll be hearing that in the episodes. That's all I'm going to tell you right now. There will be more coming probably as early as April of 2019 when we can get that content ready and released. But I'm really excited to have him on the show. I've actually been a fan of High Octane Coffee for a while. It's really good stuff. And I really like Joey. He's been on the show a couple times, got a lot of energy, and the brands just kind of line up. Things just made sense to do it this way. So really, I wanted to reinforce that. I did announce it a couple days ago, but I wanted to bring it up on the show again so that at least the content, if I can get it to post to Facebook this time, it will be there as evergreen content. Okay. Now, I see a couple people joining. Steve, welcome. Yeah, Rohan, I hope that you like this. I don't know if they ship High Octane Australia yet, but we might have to work on that one as part of the partnership to get you connected with that. Okay, so last time I did talk about vlogging. It is something that it's getting a little bit more popular. The term vlogging is basically video blogging. It's kind of like combining those things, so it's sharing your story. It's not that new, but I'm just noticing more riders and racers taking advantage of that platform of the vlogging. RJ Anderson just came out with a newer series of vlogging. And then Megan Meyer, who's been on the show a couple times, she also came out with her own version of vlogging. And then there's just a couple other YouTube channels I've been following recently. I just got into Jeeps quite a bit in the past several months. And Light Bright Studios does a pretty cool vlog. And there's another one I wrote the Brooke and Allen. They do a vlog of like a ZR2 Colorado build. Light Bright does it with a JLU Rubicon build. But either way, one thing I'm noticing is that these riders and racers and content creators are taking the vlogging to a point where they're becoming more vulnerable with their content, which to me makes it a little bit more intriguing. So when I say vulnerable, I mean they're showing you behind the scenes of their content. They're showing you blooper reels, and it's almost like they're purposefully doing that to make the content a little bit more, easy to consume and a little bit easier to connect with. So I've been noticing them doing that. Even, I think it was Brooke and Allen specifically, they'll start off their first, couple minutes of a show where they're like, keep messing up. They're trying to start and then they make a mistake. And it's just kind of cool. Megan Meyer just started one where she was doing a vlog, and it shows her taking off flying to her next race. If you don't know who Megan Meyer is, she does NHRA racing. And she's flying to a race, and it shows her going to, Orlando or something. And then it shows her going another way. Shortly after that said, change of plans, going to New Mexico. I don't know where it was. But it was kind of cool. You're like, oh, yeah, people actually go through this stuff. So I thought it was pretty engaging. I've been interested in it, so that's why I want to talk a little bit more about it. I would like to do something like that this year, whether it's part of the podcast or just, my own personal thing, just to kind of understand what exactly content could look like in the vlogging platform. And I'm assuming that either Facebook or YouTube would be a great landing spot for that type of content. Okay, so that's all I really wanted to touch base on for vlogging. I did actually talk about it a little bit in the episode that was, completely lost, but that's really cool stuff. Show behind the scenes, be vulnerable, capture your builds, capture your race preparation. It's all really cool stuff. Okay, now I want to address something Matt Housen just typed up on here. He said, did you somehow predict the Facebook outage? So for people who didn't make this connection here, Matt did. I released episode 143 on Tuesday of this week. So what's today? Today's March 17th of 2019. I released this thing that said the social media apocalypse. That was the name of the show. What would you do if social media, Facebook and Instagram were no more? What if they didn't do the things that you're used to them doing? And then social media crashed the next day. I don't know how this happened. Did I cause it? It's almost like I caused this to happen. But either way, it kind of proved my point. I don't know. I almost kind of like that it happened now to prove the point. What do you do then if you can no longer share your content in the way that you originally intended? 99% of the Facebook and Instagram users flipped out that day. And I was one of them. I didn't even know what was happening. I knew something was going on with Instagram. I had no idea it was connected to Facebook. So I had a live show planned that night with Brandon Cox, and he wasn't able to join for a completely separate reason, but about 5 minutes ahead of time, he couldn't join. And then after I did it, I did the whole show. It was a shorter one, maybe 15, 20 minutes, and I couldn't post it to Facebook. And I still didn't know what was going on until the next day when I realized what had happened. So either way, yeah, Matt, I don't know how, I did not predict this. I did not set it up, but it completely justifies my previous episode. So if you haven't already listened to that one, go back, episode 143, Social Media Apocalypse, check it out. But I want to reinforce some of the concepts I talked about in that show because they definitely apply. One is just around improvisation and I guess ad hoc, be ready to change on the fly. I mean, even just with Brandon not being able to join, I mean, I had a whole outline prepared for that. I have an outline prepared for all of my shows, even my normal podcast and the live shows. And, you know, I couldn't follow that outline anymore. And I had about 5 minutes to come up with something before I went live. Now, one of the things that I do, and I didn't realize that it was going to benefit me one day, but I keep track of a lot of backups, backup conversations, things that could, cover myself maybe if I'm in a lag or a lull during a live video, or maybe if I have a break in guests that are coming on the show, I have content that I can talk about. I have topics I can talk about that people bring up throughout the year. So I keep a list of those things. So essentially what happened was right when Brandon said, hey, I can't join, something's up, can we reschedule? I was like, yeah, no big deal. And I pulled up my list and I went through and I said, okay, here's I have 22, 23 topics or so that I could randomly pull out if I needed to. And I just looked at one, pulled it out and said, let's see what we can do. And it was vlogging. So that was the content I covered on that day. I encourage you to do something similar. Not everybody does live shows and, not everybody is going to have a specific time where they have to release content, but a lot of you still do that. Maybe it's a podium speech. Maybe it's, getting interviewed for a different podcast or a different live show. Or a lot more riders and racers are doing that nowadays. Have some of that backup content, under your belt. You know what I mean? Just in case something goes wrong and you need to improv. Maybe it's a speech at an award ceremony. I don't know. It could be a lot of different things that you can bring up, but I think it's good to have those plan A, plan B, plan C type things. It's kind of strategic. Maybe you'll never use them. For me, I've only actually had to go and use my backup list, I think twice now. And this would be my 100, and I think this would be episode 144 when I release it. So I don't have to use it much, but when I did use it, it's a big deal. So the next thing just around the improv is if the system fails or if you have a technical difficulty, be ready to change gears again. It goes back to improv. Be ready to change gears. The best way to be ready, in my opinion, is to be calm and prepared. When you get stressed or tensed, you tend to forget the simple things. A lot of people who watch the show are doing interviews, whether it's on a podium or on another show. They're involved in a lot of conversations like this, and there's almost always something that goes wrong technically. Even people who are very well prepared. I like to consider myself pretty well prepared, but I've had my equipment fail. Sometimes I've had it fail. Like when I'm doing a live interview in person, I've had stuff fail before, and you've got to switch. So when I do my in-person interviews, let's say Vegas Reno, I always have podcast equipment set up for mobile recording at Vegas Reno, and I have, I think I have 3 backup pieces of equipment. So I have my main equipment, which gives the best sound. If for some reason something goes wrong with that, I have a backup recorder, and I can use that to record straight to my computer or to my cell phone. And then the third thing I have is just my cell phone. So I have a big enough memory card on my cell phone where I could capture an entire recording session on that phone. Now that's all just in case something goes wrong, but almost every time it does in some way, shape, or form. So be prepared for that. And I think if you're on the other side, let's say you're receiving an interview, maybe it's at a podium and there's a technical difficulty, that's okay. Just be calm and help them sort it out. Or if they lose their grounds to speak, like let's say they start fumbling around the interviewer and they make mistakes, that's okay. That's okay. Maybe you can cover for them because you're calm and you have a topic prepared and you can talk through that. So just some other little hints there that I kind of wanted to reinforce, kind of based off of some issues that I've seen in the past and also just this recent, social media glitch that we saw. So that's really the things I wanted to cover today. Another one that's pretty quick, but a lot of this I wanted to emphasize the points that I made in episode 143 and then basically repeat the points that I made in the previous live show that I did a couple days ago, just because I didn't want that content to be lost. But that's it. As you're coming on here, if you're watching a replay, go ahead and let me know by typing in the comments #replay, or if there's anything else that you want to see on the show, different guests, whatever it may be, leave that in the comments. As always, head over to iTunes, leave a rating and review for the show, because that is one of the biggest ways that the show can continue to grow. Because when iTunes is assessing which shows to put in front of people, they base it a lot off of downloads and ratings and reviews. So please go ahead and continue to do that. But that's it. I am going to close things out and leave you with this. Have fun and ride safe.